Commander Jake Miller stood in the center of the massive courtroom, his hands clasped behind his back. The room was enormous, bigger than any stadium on Earth. The walls curved up and up until they disappeared into darkness. Around him, in a perfect circle, sat the 12 members of the Galactic Council. Each one looked different from the others, and all of them looked angry. The Vexthari representative was the worst. It had 6 arms and skin that looked like metal. Its voice sounded like grinding gears when it spoke. "The human species has been found guilty on all charges," it said. The words echoed in the huge room. Excessive violence. Unpredictable behavior. Breaking the laws of peace. Jake felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He knew how to stay quiet when everything inside him wanted to shout. High above in the observation deck, Dr. Lisa Park pressed her face against the glass window. Her breath made small clouds on the cold surface. Next to her, Admiral Ryan Scott shook his head slowly. "This is wrong," he whispered. "Everything we did was to protect innocent people." Lisa nodded but said nothing. She had been Earth's chief diplomat for 5 years. She had talked to these aliens countless times. She had tried to make them understand humans. Now she knew she had failed. The council leader was a tall, thin creature called a Zentari. It had 4 eyes and blue skin that seemed to glow in the dim light. When it spoke, its voice was cold and final. "The Galactic Federation cannot allow such a dangerous species to remain among civilized worlds. Humans show too much aggression. They cannot be trusted," Jake finally spoke. His voice was steady and clear. "What about the Kepler 442 colony? What about the 3 million people the raiders were going to kill? Were we supposed to let them die?" The Zentari's 4 eyes all focused on him. "You were supposed to wait for Federation forces to arrive. Your forces would have taken 6 days to get there," Jake said. "The colony would have been destroyed. Everyone would have been dead." "That is not your decision to make," the Vexthari said. Its metal skin seemed to get brighter when it was angry. "Humans always think they know better than everyone else. This is why you are dangerous." Dr. Lisa Park closed her eyes. She remembered the reports from Kepler 442. The Korgan raiders had attacked without warning. They had already destroyed 2 cities and were heading for the main settlement where most of the colonists lived. The nearest Federation patrol was 6 days away. Captain Amy Rodriguez and her ship had been the only help available. Amy had saved 3 million lives that day. She had fought off 12 Korgan ships with just 1 human vessel. The battle had been fierce and bloody, but she had won. The colonists were safe, but the Federation called it a crime because humans were supposed to ask permission before fighting anyone. The council member from the Moralian species looked sad. Moralians looked almost like humans except for their silver hair and large purple eyes. "Perhaps," it said softly, "there could be another punishment. Humans could be restricted to certain areas of space." "No," the Zentari said firmly. "The decision has been made. Humans are too unpredictable. They solve problems with violence first and questions later. They cannot be changed." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. "We saved those people. We did the right thing." "You broke Federation law," the Vexthari said. "You attacked other ships without permission from the Council. You made war without declaring war. This is what humans always do. Because waiting for permission would have meant letting innocent people die." Jake shot back. The Zentari raised one long, thin hand. "Enough. The verdict has been decided by all 12 council members. Humanity is banned from the Galactic Federation forever. All human colonies outside the Sol system must be abandoned within 6 months. All trade agreements are ended. Earth will be quarantined from galactic civilization." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. He had expected this, but hearing it made it real. 17 human colonies scattered across the galaxy. Over 2 million people who would have to leave their homes. Families who had lived on distant worlds for generations would have to return to Earth. High above, Admiral Scott grabbed the railing of the observation deck. 2 million people, he said. "How are we going to move 2 million people in 6 months?" Lisa Park was already thinking about the logistics. Ships, supplies, housing on Earth. It would be the largest evacuation in human history. "We'll figure it out," she said. "We have to." On the far edge of the galaxy, Captain Amy Rodriguez received the transmission on her ship, the New Horizon. She was sitting in the captain's chair when the message came through. As she listened to the council's decision, her crew gathered around her. They all had the same look on their faces, anger mixed with disbelief. "So that's it?" asked Lieutenant Rick Stone, her chief engineer. "We save 3 million people and they kick us out of the galaxy?" Amy stared at the star field on her main screen. Each point of light might have a human colony around it. Families, children, elderly people who had never seen Earth. All of them would have to leave everything behind. Start plotting courses to the nearest colonies, she ordered. We have work to do. Back on Earth, President Helen Chang stood at the podium in the Global Assembly Building. Representatives from every nation sat in front of her. Behind them, news cameras broadcast to the entire planet. She had to tell 7 billion people that humanity was no longer welcome among the stars. My fellow humans, she began. Her voice was calm, but her hands shook slightly as she gripped the podium. Today, the Galactic Federation has made a decision that will change our future forever. She explained the Council's verdict. She talked about the colonies that would have to be abandoned. She spoke about the quarantine that would trap humanity in their own solar system. As she talked, she could see the shock on people's faces turning to anger. When she finished, the questions came like a storm. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded war against the aliens. Others wanted to cut all contact with the galaxy forever. The session turned into chaos. In his laboratory in Geneva, Dr. Peter Brooks turned off the news broadcast and looked at his team of scientists. They had been working on new propulsion systems, trying to make human ships faster and more efficient. Now their work had a new purpose. They think they can lock us in our own backyard, he said to his assistant, engineer Kate Williams. Maybe it's time we showed them what humans can really do. Kate nodded. She was already thinking about the alien technology they had studied over the years. Humans had learned a lot from their Federation partners. Maybe enough to survive on their own. Maybe enough to come back stronger. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. In every city, people gathered in the streets. Some cried. Some shouted. Some stood in angry silence. But in every face there was the same look that had carried humanity from caves to starships. It was the look that said they would not give up. Commander Jake Miller was escorted from the council chamber by Federation security. As he walked through the corridors of the space station, he passed windows that looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human families were packing their belongings and saying goodbye to the only homes they had ever known. But Jake Miller was a soldier. He had seen humanity face impossible odds before. As the transport ship prepared to take him back to Earth, he made himself a promise. Humanity would survive this. They would grow stronger, and someday they would return to the stars on their own terms. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humanity would make theirs. 6 months later, the last human transport ships appeared in Earth's orbit like exhausted birds returning home. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her ship, looking down at the blue and white planet below. Behind her stretched a convoy of 200 vessels, all packed with refugees from the abandoned colonies. Final count, Captain, reported Lieutenant Rick Stone. 2.3 million people. That's everyone. Amy nodded, but she felt no satisfaction. Each number represented a family torn from their home. Children who would never see the purple sunsets of Kepler 442 again. Elderly people who had spent their last years packing instead of enjoying retirement on the peaceful farming worlds they had helped build. Down on Earth, President Helen Chang watched the ships arrive from her office window. The planet was struggling to handle so many new people. Refugee camps had sprouted across every continent. Empty buildings in Detroit and Cleveland were filled with families from the outer colonies. Former soldiers from the frontier were sleeping in schools and community centers. Dr. Lisa Park was coordinating the settlement effort from a hastily built command center in Geneva. Her desk was covered with reports about housing shortages, job placement, and medical care for people who had never lived on Earth before. Many of the colonists had health problems from the different gravity and atmosphere of their former homes. The Australian government has offered another 50,000 housing units, her assistant reported, but it will take 6 months to build them. Lisa rubbed her tired eyes. 6 months seemed like forever when families were sleeping in tents and warehouses. Accept the offer. We need everything we can get. The hardest evacuation had been from New Sparta, the military training colony near the edge of Federation space. Colonel Ben Hayes had commanded the base there for 8 years. It was more than just a military installation. It was home to the families of 15,000 soldiers and their support staff. Ben had received special permission to stay until the very last moment, making sure all the civilians got out safely. But as his final transport prepared to leave, his sensors picked up incoming ships. They were not Federation vessels. Zephyrian raiders, his tactical officer reported. 12 ships moving fast. Ben cursed under his breath. The Zephyrians were one of the most aggressive species in the galaxy. They had been waiting for humans to leave so they could claim the advanced technology left behind. But Ben was not going to let them have an easy victory. All ships prepare for combat, he ordered. Civilian transports jumped to hyperspace immediately. The battle was short but fierce. Ben's 3 escort ships were outnumbered 4-1, but they fought with the desperate courage of people protecting their families. Human weapons designed for quick, decisive strikes tore through Zephyrian shields. The raiders had expected an easy raid on abandoned equipment. Instead, they found themselves in a real fight. When it was over, 8 Zephyrian ships were destroyed or disabled. Ben's small fleet had suffered damage, but everyone was alive. As they jumped to hyperspace, leaving New Sparta behind forever, Ben allowed himself a small smile. Let the galaxy remember that humans did not run away from fights. Meanwhile, Director Sandra Lee was running a very different kind of operation. While the official evacuations were happening, she was coordinating secret salvage missions across human space. Teams of specialists were quietly collecting as much alien technology as possible before the Federation could stop them. Engineer Rick Stone led one of these teams on the research station orbiting Tau, SETI. They worked around the clock, carefully removing advanced computer systems, weapon components, and most importantly, faster-than-light communication arrays. Every piece of technology they saved could help humanity build a better future. "How much longer do we have?" asked pilot Carol Nash as she loaded another crate of equipment onto their ship. "Federation patrol ships will be here in 6 hours," Rick replied. "We need to be gone in 4. Carol nodded and kept working. She had grown up on Tau Ceti Station. Her parents had been among the first human scientists to work with alien technology. Now she was helping to steal that same technology to keep humanity alive. The most valuable prize was obtained by Dr. Alex Turner, Earth's leading expert on alien biology. He had spent years studying the different species in the Federation, learning their strengths and weaknesses. His research files contained detailed information about alien psychology, social structures, and most importantly, their military capabilities. This data could save human lives someday, he told his assistant, Maria Santos, as they copied the last files. "We know things about these aliens that they don't know we know." Maria was a linguist who spoke 15 alien languages. She was downloading dictionaries, cultural databases, and diplomatic protocols. If humanity ever had to deal with aliens again, they would need people who could understand what the aliens were really saying. As the deadline approached, Captain Steve Morrison commanded the final evacuation fleet from the Centauri colonies. These had been some of the oldest and most successful human settlements outside Earth. 3 generations of families had lived there, building cities that rivaled anything on the home planet. Steve watched the last transport ship dock with his command vessel. On board were teachers, doctors, engineers, and artists, people who had spent their lives building a new civilization among the stars. Now they were refugees, carrying nothing but small bags and broken dreams. "All ships report ready for departure," his communications officer announced. Steve took one last look at the planets below. Beautiful worlds with blue oceans and green continents, now empty of human life. In a few hours, Federation ships would arrive to make sure the evacuation was complete. They would find empty cities and abandoned farms, but no trace of the technology humanity had developed during their years in space. "Take us home," Steve ordered. The jump to hyperspace felt different this time. They were not going to visit Earth and then return to their colonies. This was truly going home forever. Many people on the ships cried as the stars streaked past the windows. They were leaving behind everything they had built for an uncertain future. As the evacuation fleet approached Earth, they could see the planet had changed. New orbital stations were under construction around the moon. Asteroid mining operations had expanded dramatically. It looked like humanity was preparing for something big. President Helen Chang met with her top advisors in the secure bunker beneath Geneva. The evacuation was nearly complete, but she knew the real work was just beginning. Earth was now home to over 9 billion people, and they were completely cut off from the rest of the galaxy. "The Federation patrol ships have taken position around our solar system," reported Admiral Ryan Scott. "They're maintaining a complete blockade. No ships in or out. General Paul Martinez spread a holographic map of the solar system on the conference table. Red dots marked the positions of alien ships. 24 vessels at last count. They're not taking any chances. Dr. Peter Brooks looked tired but determined. He had been working day and night with scientists from the evacuated colonies, planning for humanity's independent future. We have the knowledge, he said. We have the people. We just need time to put it all together. Kate Williams, his top engineer, nodded in agreement. The alien technology we salvaged is already being analyzed. We're learning things the Federation never taught us, things they probably didn't want us to know. President Chang looked around the table at the faces of humanity's leaders, military officers, scientists, diplomats, and engineers. All of them had lost something when the Federation expelled humanity from the galaxy. But all of them were ready to fight for their species' future. How long? She asked simply. Dr. Brooks considered the question carefully. Give us 10 years, he said finally. 10 years of peace to develop what we've learned. After that? He smiled for the first time in months. After that, the galaxy might be surprised by what humanity has become. Outside, the alien patrol ships continued their silent watch, making sure no human vessel left the solar system. They thought they had solved the human problem by locking them away. They had no idea they had just given humanity exactly what they needed most: time to grow stronger. 5 years had passed since the last human ship returned to Earth. The planet had changed in ways that would have amazed the old Federation observers if they had been allowed to see. Hidden shipyards floated in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, invisible to the alien patrol ships that still watched the outer edges of the solar system. Dr. Emma Wright stood in the main laboratory of the Titan research station, looking at something that should have been impossible. In front of her was a small ship, no bigger than a fighter jet, but it could travel faster than any Federation vessel. She had spent 3 years reverse engineering alien propulsion systems, and another 2 years improving them with uniquely human ideas. Run the test again, she told her assistant, Dr. Kevin Lee. The small ship disappeared in a flash of blue light. 3 seconds later, it reappeared exactly where it had started, but the readings on Emma's instruments showed it had traveled to the edge of the solar system and back. 0.97 light speed, Kevin reported, trying to keep the excitement out of his voice. No Federation ship can go faster than 0.8, Emma smiled. The aliens had always been proud of their technology, looking down on human engineering as crude and inefficient. They never understood that humans did not just copy things, they made them better. On Earth, General Paul Martinez walked through the underground factories that now stretched for miles beneath the Sahara Desert. Robots and human workers labored side by side, building weapons and ships that combined the best of alien science with human creativity. The production numbers would have shocked the Federation leadership if they had known. How many ships are ready? He asked Commander Jeff Parker, who managed the construction schedules. 47 combat vessels completed this month, Jeff replied, checking his tablet. Diane Foster's team finished the new carrier design. It can launch 100 fighter ships in 30 seconds. Paul nodded, but his expression remained serious. Numbers were important, but they were not everything. The Federation had thousands of ships and billions of soldiers. Humanity would need more than just superior technology to survive what was coming. The breakthrough that changed everything came from Dr. Tony Mitchell, a physicist who had been working alone in a small laboratory on the far side of the moon. He was studying quantum entanglement, the way particles could be connected across vast distances. Most scientists thought it was just an interesting curiosity with no practical use, Tony. Proved them wrong. I can make two objects share the same quantum state regardless of distance, he explained to a room full of amazed scientists and military leaders. Information between them travels instantly. Not at light speed, instantly. The implications were staggering. Human ships could communicate with Earth from anywhere in the galaxy without delay. Fleet commanders could coordinate attacks in real time across multiple star systems. It was better than anything the Federation had. Dr. Lisa Park, now serving as Earth's Minister of External Affairs, realized this technology could do more than just help in military operations. We can contact our allies, she said. The species that secretly supported us. We can build a network. And they did have allies, though few in the Federation knew it. Captain Lucy Adams commanded one of the new stealth ships that had been slipping past the alien blockade for 2 years. Her vessel was invisible to Federation sensors, using technology adapted from the salvaged equipment and improved with human innovation. Lucy's mission was simple, but dangerous. She made contact with species that had quietly opposed humanity's banishment from the galaxy. The peaceful Moralians who valued wisdom over strength. The trade-focused Corothians who cared more about profit than politics. Even some members of other species who thought the Federation had made a terrible mistake. The humans were the only ones who ever stood up to the Zephyrian bullies. A Corothian merchant told Lucy during a secret meeting on a remote trading post. Now the Zephyrians think they can do whatever they want. Lucy listened carefully and recorded everything. Intelligence officer Sharon Clark had trained her to recognize valuable information. The Federation was not as united as it appeared. Many species were unhappy with the current leadership, but they were afraid to speak out. Captain Chris Roberts ran similar missions to gather information about Federation military movements. His stealth ship could observe alien fleets without being detected. What he learned was both encouraging and worrying. "They're getting careless," he reported to Admiral Ryan Scott during one of his returns to Earth. "They think we're beaten. They've reduced patrols in half the galaxy, but they're also building something big near the Galactic core, something they don't want anyone to see." Admiral Scott studied the intelligence reports spread across his desk. After 5 years of isolation, humanity knew more about Federation activities than most Federation species did. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking that cutting off communication meant cutting off human curiosity. The most important discovery came from Dr. Nicole Garcia, who had been analyzing alien military tactics for years. She was a former Federation observer who had watched alien armies in action during peacekeeping missions. Now she used that knowledge to develop countermeasures. "They fight like they live," she explained to a group of human military commanders. "Very organized, very predictable. They follow rules even when the rules don't make sense. That's their weakness." She showed them recordings of Federation battles against pirates and rebels. The alien forces always used the same formations, the same strategies. They were effective against other aliens who fought the same way. But they would struggle against human tactics that changed and adapted during battle. Frank Taylor, a sergeant who had fought in the evacuation battles, nodded as he watched the recordings. "They fight like robots," he said. "We fight like humans," Dr. Garcia smiled. "Exactly. And that's going to win us this war." The humans did not know it yet, but war was coming. On the far edge of the galaxy, something terrible was approaching. The Devourers, a species from outside the known galaxy, had been destroying civilizations for thousands of years. They consumed entire planets, leaving nothing but empty space behind. The Federation's deep space monitoring stations had detected the first signs of the invasion 6 months ago. But the alien leadership was too proud to admit they might need help, especially from the species they had banished for being too violent. Back on Earth, President Victor Green met with his cabinet in the expanded command center beneath Geneva. The room was much larger now, filled with screens showing data from across the solar system and beyond. Humanity had not been sitting idle during their isolation. "Our scouts report unusual activity in Federation space," reported Sharon Clark, now Director of External Intelligence. "Large fleet movements toward the Galactic Rim. They're mobilizing for something big." Dr. Peter Brooks, who had become Earth's chief scientific advisor, looked thoughtful. "Whatever they're facing, it must be serious. The Federation doesn't move that many ships unless they're really scared." President Green considered the information carefully. Humanity had spent 5 years preparing for the day they would return to galactic civilization. They had better ships, better weapons, and better tactics than any Federation species, but they were still just one planet against an entire galaxy. "How many ships do we have ready for deep space operations?" he asked General Martinez. 300 combat vessels fully crewed and equipped," Paul replied. "Another 100 support ships. It's not enough to conquer the galaxy, but it's enough to make a statement." President Green nodded. "Then we wait. Whatever is happening out there, the Federation is going to need help soon, and when they do, humanity will be ready to provide it." Outside Earth's atmosphere, construction continued on the massive shipyards that would soon launch the largest human fleet in history. The galaxy had forgotten about the small blue planet and its dangerous inhabitants. That was exactly what humanity wanted them to think. The isolation was almost over. Soon the galaxy would remember why they had feared humans in the first place. But this time humanity would use that fear to protect the innocent, not just to survive. The long wait was ending. The return was beginning. 10 years after humanity's banishment, Admiral Danny Wilson received a message that changed everything. He was sitting in his command chair aboard the flagship Liberty when the communication came through on a secret channel. The sender was a Moralian diplomat named Veltar Ninesongs, one of the few aliens who had supported humanity during the trial. Admiral Wilson, the alien's voice was strained with worry. The Federation requires immediate assistance. We face extinction. Danny had been expecting this message for months. Human scout ships had reported massive destruction along the galaxy's outer rim. Entire star systems were going dark. The Federation's proud fleets were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. What exactly are you facing out there? Danny asked. Veltar's image appeared on the main screen. The Moralian looked older than Danny remembered, his silver hair now streaked with white. They call themselves the Devourers. They consume everything, planets, ships, entire civilizations. Our weapons barely slow them down. Danny nodded slowly. He had read the intelligence reports. The Devourers were unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. They fought with a savagery that made human aggression look like a children's game. More importantly, they seemed immune to the careful, organized tactics that Federation forces relied on. And you want humanity's help, Danny said. It was not a question. The Council has authorized me to make this request, Veltar replied. We know we treated your people badly, but innocent billions will die if the Devourers are not stopped. On Earth, President Marcus Brown listened to the recording of Veltar's message in the secure briefing room. Around the table sat humanity's top military and political leaders. The irony was obvious to everyone. The same galaxy that had banished humans for being too violent now needed that violence to survive. They're desperate, said Dr. Lisa Park. The Federation has lost over 200 ships in the past month alone. Their casualties are in the millions. General Paul Martinez pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red areas showed where the Devourers had attacked. The pattern was clear. They were moving toward the Galactic Center, consuming everything in their path. Their request came through back channels, reported Sharon Clark. The official Federation government hasn't approved asking for human help. This is just a few species acting on their own. President Brown considered the situation carefully. Humanity had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. They had ships and weapons that surpassed anything the Federation possessed. They had strategies specifically designed to fight enemies who did not follow the traditional rules of war. What are our capabilities? He asked Admiral Wilson. 300 frontline combat ships ready for immediate deployment, Danny replied. Another 500 support vessels, all equipped with our latest technology. Our crews have been training for this kind of war. Dr. Nicole Garcia stood up and activated another hologram. It showed a detailed analysis of Devourer tactics based on Federation battle recordings. They fight in swarms like insects, no formations, no strategy, just overwhelming numbers and aggression. Federation forces can't adapt to their unpredictable attacks. But we can, added Captain Rachel Stone, one of humanity's most experienced combat veterans. Our tactics are designed for flexibility. We can change our approach in the middle of a battle. President Brown made his decision. Admiral Wilson, prepare the fleet for departure. We're going to war. The first human ships to leave the solar system in 10 years did so quietly, slipping past the Federation blockade using stealth technology the aliens could not detect. Admiral Wilson commanded the advance force of 50 ships, heading for the Xerion system where Federation forces were making a desperate stand. Captain Jerry Lopez commanded one of the escort ships in Wilson's fleet. He had been just a lieutenant during the evacuation from the colonies, but 10 years of preparation had made him one of humanity's best tactical commanders. As his ship dropped out of hyperspace near Xerion Prime, he saw a sight that would have terrified most Federation officers. The Devourer swarm filled the space around the planet like a cloud of angry wasps. There were thousands of them, small, fast ships that moved without any apparent coordination. They were attacking the Federation defense fleet with suicidal intensity, ramming damaged ships and using weapons that seemed to tear holes in space itself. Federation forces are down to 30% strength, reported his tactical officer. The planet's orbital stations are under direct attack. Jerry opened a communication channel to Admiral Wilson. Sir, requesting permission to engage. Granted, Wilson replied. Show them how humans fight. The human ships attacked in small groups using tactics that had been refined during years of simulation and training. Instead of forming the rigid battle lines that Federation forces preferred, they moved like packs of wolves, striking fast and then disappearing before the Devourers could respond. Captain Linda Wright coordinated the assault from her command ship. She had studied alien psychology for years and understood something the Federation military did not. The Devourers expected their enemies to fight in predictable patterns. When humans attacked from unexpected directions and used unconventional strategies, the alien swarm became confused and disorganized. Target their command ships, she ordered. Every swarm has leaders. Take them out and the rest will scatter. Human weapons, designed for precision rather than raw power, proved devastatingly effective against the Devourer ships. While Federation energy beams often missed their fast-moving targets, human-guided missiles could track and destroy individual enemy vessels with surgical accuracy. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Devourer swarm was scattered and the planet was safe. Federation officers who had watched the fight from the surface were amazed by what they had seen. Human ships had done in hours what Federation fleets had been unable to accomplish in weeks. Commander Scott Davis, one of the human engineering specialists, worked alongside alien technicians to repair the damaged orbital stations. His team had brought advanced repair equipment that could fix damage in minutes instead of hours. The grateful station personnel watched in amazement as human technology restored their defenses. "Your weapons are incredible," said a Carothian engineer. "How did you develop such precise targeting systems?" Scott smiled. "We had 10 years to think about it. And we had very good teachers." He did not mention that the teachers had been the aliens' own weapons, captured during the evacuation and reverse-engineered by human scientists. Dr. Anna Campbell, a human medic, set up a field hospital on the planet's surface. She worked alongside alien doctors to treat the wounded, using medical techniques that combined human innovation with alien knowledge. Her ability to treat both human and alien patients with equal skill impressed everyone who saw her work. The victory at Zarian Prime was just the beginning. Word of humanity's return spread through Federation space, faster than any official communication. Species that had been losing hope began to fight back with renewed determination. The humans were back and they were winning. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Wilson received reports from across the war zone. Human forces were engaging Devourer swarms in a dozen different systems. Each battle used slightly different tactics, adapting to local conditions and enemy behavior. It was exactly the kind of flexible warfare that humans excelled at, and aliens struggled to understand. "The Federation Council wants to meet with you," reported his communications officer. "They're finally ready to make an official request for assistance." Wilson nodded. "Tell them we'll consider it. But we have our own conditions." The message that went back to the Federation capital was simple but firm. Humanity would help defend the galaxy against the Devourers, but they would not do it as junior partners or mercenaries. If the Federation wanted human help, they would have to accept humans as equals. The war had given humanity something they had never had before: leverage. The galaxy needed them now, and everyone knew it. The species that had once banished humans for being too dangerous now depended on that same dangerous nature for their survival. The tide of war was turning, but the real negotiations were just beginning. The war against the Devourers ended not with a massive battle, but with a whimper. The alien swarms, faced with human tactics they could not understand or counter, simply retreated back to the empty space beyond the galaxy's edge. For the first time in galactic history, an external invasion had been completely defeated. Ambassador Susan Baker stood in the rebuilt council chambers on Nexus Prime, looking at the same 12 seats where humanity had been banished 10 years earlier. But this time she was not here to receive judgment. She was here to negotiate as an equal. The council members looked different now. Some faces were new. 3 species had lost their original representatives during the war. Others, like the Moralian Veltar 9 songs, seemed older and wiser. All of them looked at Susan with a mixture of gratitude and fear. The Zentari council leader spoke first, his 4 eyes focused on Susan's face. "Ambassador Baker, the Galactic Federation formally thanks humanity for its assistance during the recent crisis." "Your forces saved countless lives," Susan nodded politely. "We did what was necessary to protect innocent people." just as we did at Kepler 442. The reference to the incident that had caused humanity's banishment was not lost on anyone in the room. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Federation Council has voted to offer humanity full reinstatement, the Zentari continued. All previous charges are dropped. Your colonies may be re-established. Trade agreements will be restored. Susan smiled, but it was not a happy expression. Thank you for the generous offer. But humanity must decline. The silence in the chamber was deafening. The Vexithari representative, its metal skin gleaming under the lights, leaned forward. You refuse membership in the Federation? After everything that has happened? We refuse membership as junior partners, Susan clarified.
Humanity has grown beyond that.
We propose something different, a true alliance of equals. President Victor Green had coached her carefully for this moment. Humanity did not want to rejoin the Federation that had cast them out. They wanted to create something new, something better. On Earth, President Green watched the negotiations through a live transmission. Around him in the command center sat the leaders who had guided humanity through 10 years of isolation and growth. Dr. Peter Brooks, Admiral Danny Wilson, General Paul Martinez, and dozens of others who had turned humanity's banishment into its greatest opportunity. Tell them about our discoveries, Green said into his communicator. Susan activated a holographic projector in the center of the council chamber. The first image showed a star map with dozens of new hyperspace routes that human explorers had discovered during their isolation. While you believed us trapped in our solar system, our ships were mapping new paths through the galaxy, she explained. We found faster routes between major systems. Trade that once took months can now be accomplished in weeks. The Corothian trade representative's eyes widened. His species made their living from interstellar commerce, and these new routes could revolutionize their business. The next hologram showed technical specifications for human weapons and defense systems. Our military technology has advanced beyond anything in the current Federation arsenal. We can share this knowledge, but only as partners, not as subjects. Dr. Joseph Turner had spent months preparing these presentations. Each display showed how humanity had not just survived their isolation, but had used it to become stronger than ever before. Faster ships, more efficient energy systems, revolutionary communication networks, all of it was beyond what Federation science had achieved. Engineer Martha Collins had compiled the industrial data that Susan showed next. Our manufacturing capabilities can supply the entire galaxy with advanced equipment. We can build ships, weapons, and infrastructure faster and better than any existing Federation facility. The council members were clearly impressed, but some were also concerned. The Zephyrian representative, a proud warrior from one of the most aggressive species in the galaxy, stood up angrily. Humans think they are superior to everyone else, he growled. This is why you were banished in the first place. You believe your way is always the best way. Colonel Gary Phillips had anticipated this objection. Through Susan, he responded with careful diplomacy mixed with quiet strength. We do not claim to be superior. We claim to be different. The recent war proved that different approaches are valuable. Diversity makes us all stronger. What exactly are you proposing? Asked the Moralian representative Veltar Ninesong. Susan took a deep breath. This was the moment everything depended on. A new galactic alliance. Not a hierarchy with some species ruling over others, but a true partnership. Each species contributes what they do best. Humans provide military innovation and industrial capacity. Moralians offer wisdom and scientific research. Corothians manage trade and commerce. Every species has a voice, and every voice is equal. The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Some species supported the human proposal immediately. The Moralians and Corothians had always been friendly to humanity, and they saw the benefits of equal partnership. Other species were more reluctant to give up the traditional power structure that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. The Zephyrians were the strongest opponents. Their representative argued that humans were too unpredictable and dangerous to be trusted with equal authority. Give them power and they will use it to dominate everyone else, he warned. Admiral Carl Martinez, representing Earth's military interests, addressed this concern directly through the communication link. The Federation had 10 years to prepare for the Devourer invasion. You failed. Humanity stopped the threat in 6 months. If we wanted to dominate the galaxy, we could have let the Devourers destroy you and then taken over what remained. Instead, we saved your worlds and offered you partnership. The turning point came when a new threat appeared on the galaxy's long-range sensors. The deep space monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures approaching from a different direction than the Devourers had come from. Something else was heading toward the galaxy, something even larger and more dangerous. The Devourers were just scouts, reported the Federation's chief scientist, an elderly Zentari named Kethvar. The main invasion force is still coming. The council chamber fell silent. Without human help, the Federation would face extinction. With human help as junior partners, humanity might decide the relationship was not worth the effort. Only as true allies could both sides bring their full strength to bear against the coming threat. The vote, when it finally came, was not unanimous. 8 species supported the new alliance structure. 3 opposed it, 1 abstained. But it was enough. The signing ceremony took place aboard the human Starship Enterprise Captain Nancy Adams commanding. The ship was humanity's newest and most advanced vessel, equipped with technology that amazed even the most sophisticated alien scientists. It was a demonstration of human capabilities and a symbol of their new status in galactic affairs. As each species representative signed the new Galactic Accord, Admiral Wilson stood beside President Green on the observation deck. Below them, the signing ceremony was being broadcast to every world in the galaxy. "Think it will work?" Wilson asked quietly. Green watched as Susan Baker signed humanity's name to the document that would reshape galactic civilization. "It has to work. The alternative is extinction for all of us." The ceremony concluded with the announcement of the first joint exploration mission. The new alliance would send a combined fleet to investigate the approaching threat, using human ships equipped with alien science and crewed by mixed species teams. 5 years later, teacher Laura Morgan stood in front of a classroom on Luna Base, Earth's moon. Her students were a mix of human children and young aliens from 6 different species. They were working together on a project that would have been impossible under the old Federation system, designing a new type of starship that combined the best ideas from every species in the Alliance. "Miss Morgan," asked a young Moralian student, "is it true that humans and aliens used to fight each other?" Laura smiled. Sometimes they did, but they learned that working together was better than fighting apart. Through the classroom windows, she could see the launch of the newest exploration fleet. Human and alien ships flying side by side, heading toward the unknown regions where new discoveries and new challenges waited. The galaxy that had once banished humanity now looked to them for leadership, and humanity had proven worthy of that trust. The stars were calling again, and this time, everyone would answer together.